let's circle back to one of our top stories, the latest OCTA survey. On the phone now is Professor Guido David, OCTA Research Fellow. Professor David, we see from your latest first quarter performance survey of government agencies that DepEd scores quite high. It's number one at 82% trust rating, followed by the DSWD at 79% trust rating. I have a question regarding that, but first of all, Professor David, maybe you can tell us more about this survey.
Yes, good afternoon, Patrick, and Annie and Ronald. Good to see you.
Hi.
Hi, Dr. David.
Good afternoon sa viewers and listeners natin. And just to describe yung OCTA survey, this is one of our first results released from our first quarter Tugon ng Masa 2024 survey conducted March 11 to 14, 2024 with 1,200 respondents face-to-face nationwide.
Okay. Ako na mauna. Professor David, was this performance survey conducted at the same time as the performance survey for the President and Vice President and other top government officials? Was it done at the same time?
Well, the survey is done quarterly from March 11 to 14. So yes, it's the same survey. Although hindi pa namin na-release yung ibang results that you have mentioned, I think yung na-release pa lang namin so far the results yung sa senatorial race and I think one other. Sorry, I forgot what that one.
I understand, Professor David, that there was a survey which showed that the president's performance rating dropped by a dramatic 16%.
Yeah.
So how do you account na bumagsak, even the Vice President bumagsak, although single digit lang naman, bumagsak yung mga performance ratings nila, pero at the same time, medyo mataas itong performance rating ng mga agencies of government.
Well, I can confirm about the performance rating drop of the president. From my understanding, hindi pa na-release namin itong result.
Okay.
What I remember what we actually released was the political preference, like 31% sided with the administration, 20% sided with the Duterte. I think that was the release result. Yes. Ngayon, there could be a drop. What we're seeing here is it's not necessarily related to the performance of the individual.
Yes.
Okay.
And of course, it's also an injustice to the entire Department of Education to say that the performance is attributed to just their leader. Yes, because you have thousands of government employees working in the Department of Education, and same thing with the chair of higher education, that DW, age, wage. Yes, I believe some people, when they answer these questions, they look at the leader, but it's not necessarily correlated. Because if we look at the Commission on Higher Education, he's not as well aware. People are not as well aware of Chairman Prospero de Vera as compared to, let's say, people who are aware of the Vice President, who's also the head of the Department of Education.
Okay.
Professor, yun nga yung i-follow up ko sa question ni Patrick Yung crafting nyo ng question and the conduct of the survey, would you know kung aware yung mga tao kung sino yung head ng agency? Kasi ang iniisip din namin, pag tinanong nyo yung agency, you talk about DepEd, people will think about the teacher. Are they aware na si Sara Duterte ang head nun? Halimbawa, DSWD, how many people are aware na Secretary of DSWD sa Gatchalian? Iniisip nila yung nagbibigay ng ayuda Di ba? Or am I wrong? Kasi kung DOH, if you will look at the best performing agencies, mga frontline yan mga nagde-deliver ng aid, Department of Health. Yun ang nakikita nila, yung mga doktor, yung mga teacher, sa kayong mga social welfare workers. Am I correct? Or yung crafting nyo ng survey and the question say, actually, merong awareness yung mga tao kung sino yung namumuno ng ahensya?
Actually, that's a good question to ask, Ami. Maybe I could pitch that to Professor Ranjit for the next quarter survey. If we should ask about yung people are aware of the head of each agency. That's a good question. But the way I see it, correct yung sabi ng Ami na the frontline agencies are the ones who are best performing. In fact, I think for the past 2 years, they're taking the same results. Nagsashuffle na sila. But the top 5 are always the educational industries like yung DepEd and SHED. And then Department of Health is almost always in the top 5. Same thing rin with the DSW, which gives the ayuda. So, in a way, I see that as medyo independent siya of the head of the agency. Because sila pa rin naman yung top 5 agencies regardless of who the head is. I mean, I can remember as far back as 2021 who were the top 5 agencies kunyari, or before they changed the But
kasi i-spin din yan ng mga hindi ba? Well, wag na natin sabihin i-spin, pero yan ang sasabihin ng mga head of agency Tingnan nyo, magaling yung performance ko. Yung agency ko yon. Would that be a valid claim?
Well, they can be proud of it because it's better if their agency is performing rather than underperforming. And you know, they can. I'm sure part of it is attributed to the leadership, but it's only a small part. We don't want to do injustice to DOH. There are numerous doctors and government employees serving under the DOH. I personally know some other secretaries, assistant secretaries. They work hard, and if the rating of the agency is only just because of the head of the agency, but injustice din naman yan sa people working under the head of the agency.
Professor David, if the president's rating did drop, as you suggest earlier, why didn't the relatively seemingly high performance rating or trust ratings of the agencies, why were they unable to shore up the president's performance rating? We understand that yung agency head maybe hindi alam ng tao, pero shouldn't all of these agencies' performance parang be identified with the administration?
Exactly, Doctor, dagdag doon sa tanong ni Patrick, without belaboring the point, pwedeng maunawaan natin kung medyo hindi ganun kalaki yung agwat, pero dito kasi ang laki, bahagi rin ng survey nyo, yung bilanggit mo nga, 30%, 31% for the President, for the Marcos, 20% for the Duterte, tapos in all other surveys na hindi naman nalalayo sa resulta ng OCTA, ganun din dramatic yung pagbaba. Pero pag pinag-usapan kasi yung mga department, ang head ng lahat niyan ay yung presidente.
Right.
So ano yung explanation sa napakalaking
discrepancy,
gap? Oo. Yun yung gusto namin maunawaan
Sure. I can explain that. And before I explain that, I will first neither confirm na bumaba yung trust and approval ng top government officials. We'll wait for the official release.
Okay.
But I am confirming na other survey firms have shown a decrease in the trust and approval of the president and the vice president. So, that's probably what we may expect from our results. Although hindi pa nga baka magalit sa Professor Ranjit hindi pa naman na officially na-release yan, so I can't really talk about it. But, sige, valid yung question bakit mataas pa rin yung like DOH and yung DepEd, yung Commission on Higher Education. But, on the other hand, na-mention na natin yung top performing agencies, pero there are some agencies that have performance and trust na nasa 37%. So it should be nagbabalance out now. There are some good performing agencies and there are some bad performing agencies.
Can you mention some of those? Can you mention some of those bad performing agencies, Professor David? Maybe that could provide us a clue.
I will not say bad performing. Let's say they're not performing as well.
30%. Okay. Yung nasa 30%.
I don't want to be quoted, but okay. I will just say that they're not performing as well. Some of these agencies, actually, nasa press release yan, if I can talk about them.
Okay.
It's some that come to mind are some agencies na hindi pa mataas yung awareness, like Department of Migrant Workers.
Okay.
Hindi ganun mataas yung awareness nila. One is DPM, and I'm not sure why. I can't really explain. And also DPI. Possibly because may mga complaints about DPI. I'm just speculating it's possible. So there are some agencies which are not performing as well. And so it's the people can identify or can separate these agencies from the national government performance. And totoo naman. I mean, when we're talking about DepEd and CHED, I guess people are satisfied with scholarships na binibigay nila, and and that's what they see. The SWD, they're satisfied with the mga ayuda na nakukuha nila, which maybe the health services na nabibigay nila sa mga tao. So these are frontline services. But some other agencies that are not rated as high, maybe there are some reasons or another that they're getting the results that they're getting from the people.
Okay, Ronald?
Professor, is there a possibility also na mababa nga yung awareness ng nature ng trabaho ng agency? Because like you said, yung Department of Migrant Workers, hindi pa sa kilala. Yung DBM especially, maraming tao hindi nakakaintindi about the budget process at will probably not understand if it's performing well or not. Is that also possibility na medyo yung bang yung sampling ba nyo across income sa okay naman yung representation niya?
And that's exactly why I don't want to call them bad performing.
Okay.
Because they're not necessarily bad performing. Maybe they're not just as
top of
people
mind.
are just not as well aware.
Yes.
Wala sila sa top of mind. I mean, there's some agencies, ako mismo, I hardly see them or interact with see any media coverage from them. Unlike yung mga agencies or institutions that people hear about often, like the DOH or DSWD. So that's why it's not fair to compare them. It's like comparing apples to oranges. Some are people are aware of them, and some people are not as aware of them.
But Professor, is low public awareness of these agencies enough to bring down the performance rating of the president? If it's a question of low public awareness lang?
Well, it could be a combination of low public awareness for some agencies and maybe not performing as well.
I guess my question...
Yeah.
I guess my question, Professor David, I know you have yet to release the actual numbers on the president's performance rating. I guess my question is, are there other factors, other reasons? Is it a question of hot issues where, where maybe yung appreciation of public is not satisfactory or good? Are there other issues involved?
Okay, without preempting our release for the results, but let's say looking at the other results from other survey companies, there's a decrease in the performance rating of the president. I think we could attribute this to some of their urgent concerns, and some of their urgent concerns include the rising prices of goods and basic services. So that is a factor, definitely, that affects the how the president is rated by the general public. Another is, and this is more speculation, but I think the feud that the administration has with certain parties, I think it affects negatively on all parties involved. That's just my speculation.
Okay,
Doc Guido David, is it safe to presume that this isn't the first time you made such a survey? If yes, what's the major difference from your previous survey using the same framework? Meron bang significant difference, or is it still the same relatively?
we're talking about yung trust and performance ng
Yes.
Right.
ng government aid
Yes.
institutions, right? Yes.
May ginawa ba kayo nito
we've
a
done-
year ago, 2 years ago? At anong difference? Is it
I guess, are the numbers the same? Kumbaga, this is a default number na when you ask people about the trust rating for government agencies, talaga nasa 80s ang DepEd or that?
or is there a major difference?
There's no major difference. We ask this question every quarter. So this is one of the probes that we consistently ask because we are monitoring the performance of these agencies. And as I mentioned kanina, the top 5 actually is more or less consistent over the past 2 years. Pero nagsha-shuffle na sila. So I would say these are minor differences. There was a quarter last year na SHED was the highest performing. I know that because the chairman, Prosper Rivera, he actually made a post that acknowledged that. There was also a quarter na DSWD was the highest performing. I would also know that because the Secretary Gatchalian actually made also a post about that. So there's some minor changes, but the top 5, we've seen some consistency in them. So nag-change na konting numbers. Like before, the highest was maybe 75% or something like that. And ngayon, the highest is 82%. So there's some changes, but again, qualitatively, I think the trend is that the same 5 agencies are the same ones consistently rating in the top 5.
Okay, Professor Guido David.
Professor, mukhang okay na ba? Sige.
Yeah, okay.
Okay na.
Okay, that's all the time we have for now. Unfortunately, Ami. No,
Okay.
Professor Guido David
Yeah.
of OCTA Research, thank you so much for your time.
Salamat, Doctor.
Thank you,
so much.
Professor.
Patrick and Rhonda. Have a good afternoon.